Ladies, I'll never forget the moment when Halftee literally was born. I was sitting in my bedroom. I was nursing Cruz, who's our fifth baby, and I was thinking about I need to get up and get ready for the day. And I looked in my closet and I said, oh, I'd love to wear that today. But then I just kind of dropped my head and said, I can't because I have to wear a layering t-shirt underneath. And if you've ever nursed before, you know that having layers on is miserable. It's like the worst. And I remember thinking, why in the world can a woman, can we, I don't even care who it was, not come up with a layering top that actually cuts off right here, adds a sleeve and a neckline to all of your tops and dresses and jumpers, but not all the extra bulk and heat. Because I just was so over the extra layer, the tugging, the pulling, the tucking. I mean, guys, I had been pregnant too. So we're talking like pulling those layers over my stomach and then nursing and then, fill in the blank. But I was so sick of it. And in that moment, I was like, Amanda, you could do that. It can't be that hard. And Tyler walked in, I'm still nursing. And I said, hey, babe, I just had an idea. I'm starting a company. And I'm sure his look was like, okay, are you postpartum? Are you like going a little bit crazy with all these kids? And I said, no, I'm serious. I'm going to start a company. And this is what's so hilarious because the fact that I wanted to sell a crop top for modesty is actually one of the most ironic, the song, Isn't It Ironic? Don't you think? She could say, isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like selling a crop top for modesty. Would be absolutely perfect line in that song. So after I said that, hey, I'm going to cut off all my layering tops. I'm going to just sell crop tops for modesty. It's going to be tons of different sleeve lengths. We're going to do different necklines, different fabrics. And he literally thought I had lost my noodle. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm just letting you know this is happening. And he said, all right, go do it. So that is the aha moment of how Halftee was born and really is taking the spark in just an ordinary moment of my life that turned into Halftee. And 16 years later, here we are. And eventually, as crazy as this sounds, it's turned into a podcast now. Hi, I'm Amanda Barker, mom of 8, future of Halftee, not future. I'm Amanda Barker, mom of 8, founder of Halftee, and host of Her Layered Life. In episode 1, we uncovered the staggering 80% to 2% stat and the ripple effect of shifting just a small percentage of our spending as women. Today, I want to go deeper with you. No guests yet, just me and you pulling back another layer. We'll explore the real stories behind women-owned businesses, the sacrifices, the pivots, and the resilience it takes to keep going. This is about how belief turns into action and how every layer of her story matters. I want to talk about my early layers, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about me today and what makes me tick, really, and really how Halftee was born through all of my different layers throughout my life. My story begins in Baggs, Wyoming. Yes, teeny tiny little town. Probably never heard of Baggs, Wyoming. It is so small, it didn't even have a hospital. So I was actually born in Craig, Colorado, about 45 minutes away. When I was 4, we actually moved to Sheridan, which is a beautiful part of Wyoming. If you've ever been, there's some parts of Wyoming that aren't so beautiful. Sheridan is definitely not one of them. My mom started a Sunshine Generation singing and dancing children's group. And it was kind of like what's it called? A franchise type situation. But this really was my first experience of watching my mom go and do something she loved. My mom has a massive passion for music, dance, singing, performing, all the things. And she started this little franchise of Sunshine Generation. So at a very young age, I was 5 years old, I started singing and dancing. And that is such a powerful piece of my upbringing and really who I am. Our family would even clean the building. So we first started in this building and we would clean the building so that we could afford the rent there. So we'd gather every week. We'd all go together and we all go scrub the building down. Later, she actually merged with the YMCA, where I spent hours and hours after school. After school, we went straight to the Y. My sister and I, we played so so much racquetball. I actually used to be a really good racquetball player. I played a couple years ago. I'm not really good anymore, but back in the day, when Linz and I would go, we were actually pretty good and we play in tournaments and stuff. But this is actually also my dad would come after work out, and this is where we started basketball. And for those of you that don't know, I love basketball. I played basketball at BYU, so I have a huge upbringing in athletic sports, played soccer, volleyball, ran a little bit of track. I did the hurdles, bad decision because I was not very good at it. But I love sports and I love athletics. So this is where my love of basketball really started as well. My dad worked out there too, and after his workouts, he would come train me and my sister. Ball handling, shooting, layups. Those nights built my love for sports and taught me discipline. Watching my mom chase her passion for music and my dad pour into us through sports gave me such a balanced and well-founded foundation, and I just am so grateful for that. Looking back, those experiences shaped me more than I knew. Being on stage since I was 5 gave me confidence as a performer. And guys, I'm using that every day. Sometimes I use it in videos, social media, doing a podcast, all of these things, mics. It's not a big deal to me because I have had a ton of experience growing up, being on stage, carrying a mic, doing all those little things. Like my time even on shopping channels, because for those of you who don't know, we've been on shopping channels with the Halftee a lot. We had many contracts and many years doing that. And I go live on stage you have cameras and mics on your head and mics, wires running down your back. And that wasn't necessarily part of my sunshine generation days. But I still feel very confident and comfortable on a stage with people talking with all the crazy things going on. So that really helped prepare me for that as well. And the other aspect that my dad kind of brings in is our family motto was Covington's never give up. That was our family motto. He said it all the time. If you started something, you finished it. And a lot of times we would have my family, just to make ends meet, we would have these little side jobs. Cleaning the building to help pay for rent. My dad would maintain the grounds at the library. So we would mow, and it was a family affair. It wasn't like dad left to go mow the lawn at the library. Like we all went. And my job, I swear I always got this job, was picking up cigarette butts. I mean, worst job ever. Right. So that was something that, again, really taught me this importance of hard work and really just getting in and digging in together, and that a lot of hands make light work. Right. So this never give up attitude and this resilience has carried me through the ups and downs for entrepreneurship. I mean, entrepreneurship is hard. I've got 8 babies, right? Like I've got 8 kids. That's hard. But really entrepreneurship is, I don't know, there's just something at a whole nother level that requires a lot of resilience, a lot of grit, and just being able to get in the trenches and work your buns off. So these were and are the first layers that shaped me. Roots, music, sports, and just some good old family values. What is one childhood influence? I want to know. A parent, a hobby, or a motto that became part of your foundation today? And I'll go first, and I've already shared it, but it really was my mom's passion to follow her dreams in music and to follow that little entrepreneur spirit she had with Sunshine Generation. And then my dad's never give up motto and just his incredible support throughout my life with my athletics and all the things that I've done. And my mom was so supportive too, but my dad and I spent a lot of time on the basketball court, and I am just so grateful for that. This episode is brought to you by Modest Molly Boutique, where timeless style meets modern modesty. From everyday essentials to show-stopping statement pieces, Modest Molly helps you feel confident, chic, and true to yourself. Shop their latest collections online at modestmolly.com and discover modest fashion you'll actually love wearing. All right, layers of sport and grit. Sports became a huge part of my identity long before I ever played Division I basketball. From the YMCA gym days with my dad drilling us on ball handling and shooting, to long practices that stretched me past my limits. Guys, I can remember I was 12. And I can remember my sister and I, it was during the summer, we were trying to stay in shape, and we wanted to make sure that we were prepared through the summer for summer basketball and all the things. Linz played soccer and basketball, but there was a massive hill probably about half a mile down from our house that we would go and train on, and we would run hills probably 2 or 3 times a week, all on our own. And it was freaking hard. But I am so grateful for that. I just am so grateful for that background of sports and athletics and movement, because I do feel like learning lifetime healthy principles of exercise and those sort of things really is a lifetime experience, right? It's just not something we do when we're young, or when we're feeling overweight, or when we have extra time. It really built into my entire who I am, this desire and this love for exercise. Um, Anyways, by the time I reached Division One basketball, those lessons were already ingrained. Competing at that level simply refined what I had built for years. Learning how to push past limits and carry that never give up motto into every part of my life. Basketball was more than a game. It really was the perfect training center for my life. Basketball really had a bigger impact. I also in the high school girls basketball coach, and I'm headed into my 9th season. I can't even believe it. But a personal experience that I had, they had been recruiting me, trying to get me to come be the basketball coach for a couple years, actually. And Charlie had just finished up her freshman year, and I was going in with some concerns that I had to the AD. And he said, listen, we would love to have you. Like, if you want to come coach, we would love to have you. And so I decided, okay, well, Covey was 2, right? So at that point, we were 14 down to 2. Busy. Halftee was going. Tyler was traveling a ton with his work. And I really was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm going to say yes to this. But I said, okay, if you need me, I'm ready. So ended up, the basketball coach ended up retiring. He took a different position, and the basketball coach job came up. And I was driving to the high school for my interview. And I had like this vision. I'm not kidding. It was so clear. And it was like, I saw all of my coaches lined up. And guys, I had some incredible coaches, phenomenal coaches, people that I still think about often, about just who they were and how they taught me how to work so hard and believe in myself. And I was a tiny little point guard, right? Like, I'm 5'3", and I just was tiny. And it really wasn't, when you looked at me, it really wasn't in my cards to become a Division One basketball player. But every coach that I played with just made me feel so confident that whatever I wanted to work for, I really could get it done. And I just saw these coaches, and the Spirit said, Amanda, your whole life you have been shown and taught what great coaching looks like. You have something that very few people get to have, is really great examples of what great coaches look like. And so when I went into that interview, that was something that they said, what makes you qualified to be a high school girls basketball coach? And I said, my best qualification is that I know what great looks like, because I have had great coaches throughout my entire career. And that is something valuable. And that's something that's very unique that a lot of athletes don't get. So that basketball and that learning, and now I'm a basketball coach, that really was like a huge layer that taught me so many things. And I really believe, I am a huge proponent that every girl should play some sort of sport. And I prefer team sports, because I think as women, this kind of goes into this podcast and this support and all of the things that we're going to be talking about on this podcast. But women learning how to support women, and women learning how to cheer each other on, and recognizing that when you work together, when you find opportunities and you're really, really good and passionate about working together and being a great teammate, everybody rises together. And there is just no other platform, no other space that I believe girls can learn that than in team athletics. So athletics really have been a huge training for my life. So something for you to think about: what's one discipline, whether it's music, sports, another passion that you still use today that has shaped who you are today? And absolutely, sports has been teaching me that resilience, that never give up, the day in, day out. I can freaking do hard things. I mean, being a mom, running a business, being a basketball coach, they are all really, really hard things, but it's through that training, and it's through, I remember, I remember at BYU, I was so stinking sick. And I really was the player that people would make fun of and be like, oh, like, you're trying so hard. Why can't you ever just show up and just kind of do good? Or why you always got to try so hard? I got a lot of slack for that. But the coaches really would, after workouts, they'd be like, hey, man, how was that workout? Was that really hard for you? Was it too easy for you? And so I was kind of that gauge for them to know if I said that was awful, they would know, okay, we probably need to back it off just a little bit, so we don't lose people. But I remember being so stinking sick. I had no voice. I had a fever. I literally, my body hurt so bad. I'd lost, like I said, I'd lost my voice. And I called my coaches and Coach Lindsay, and I said, Coach, and she's like, what? And I said, Coach, because I had no voice, right? So I was like whispering, I was like, Coach. She's like, what's up, baby? No, she didn't call me AB because I wasn't married. She called me AC. She said, what's up, AC? And I said, I'm so sick. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to, and this was preseason conditioning, right? Like we were doing preseason conditioning. So it wasn't even in season. She's like, I need you there. Get there. So I was like, I wanted to cry. Anyways, I got there. I did the workout. It was awful. I wanted to die. But it was one of those moments, one of those layers that really showed me that even though you are so sick and you might want to die, when you go and you go do hard things anyways, you just gain so much more confidence in yourself, in your ability to do hard. And that would be something that I feel like is a layer of my life that has really helped me do the things that I've been blessed to do, is just knowing I can do really hard things. This episode is brought to you by Kiln, a modern workspace designed for creators, entrepreneurs, and businesses who want to thrive in community. At Kiln, you'll find flexible offices, meeting rooms, and all the resources you need to fuel your work and connect with others. I love that they've built spaces with intention, places that help ideas grow. To learn more and find a location near you, go to kiln.com. Let's talk about marriage, motherhood, and the spark of Halftee. So let's fast forward. Been married 26 years. I now, at this point, though, we've got 5 kids. Through every season, my husband, Tyler, has been such a steady strength. Like, seriously, I mean, he's constantly been a financial support. Guys, you can't start a small business without some sort of financial support. You just can't do it. But he's been the best business sounding board. He's very smart, very wise. He does work in corporate America, which is kind of a little bit harder to compare running a small business compared to corporate America. Like, let's say, for instance, our marketing team is like 3 people. Well, corporate America's marketing team, when they roll out a new product, is they've got about $5 million. I'm totally making up numbers, but they got this massive budget and this massive team that's really rolled this out. So sometimes we'll be talking and he's like talking to me about this marketing budget and how we need to send out flyers and da da da. And I'm like, woo, rein it in. You got a whole floor of a team, this massive budget to really roll this out. You got to help. You got to rein this in and think a little bit smaller. Hopefully just as effective, but it's been so fun being able to use him as a sounding board. We actually also have a ranch in Idaho. I'm married into it. His dad and him, and then our full-time ranch manager manages it. We own it all together. His dad has since passed, so it's Tyler and I, and then the ranch managers. But that's also been something that he's brought, been so supportive as far as just what he's learned from that aspect, which a ranch really is essentially a small business. So, and he's just been an advocate in all things I've been blessed to do. He really has been. And even our babies, right? Like, when people meet us and he's like, we've been married long enough now, we don't find too many like high school friends that approach and say, oh, how you doing? Yeah, we got 8 kids. And most of the time early, once we had those 8 babies, a lot of his friends were like, Tyler Barker has 8 kids? And he's like, I know, I had no idea. Like, it is all her, right? So he really is so willing to just grow and support my intuition and my promptings and all of these aha moments. He just has been such an awesome partner to be a part of that. So one day I was sitting in my bedroom. I already talked about this with our 5th child. I was so frustrated, with the layering aspects. And I thought, why can't there be just another top that gives us a sleeve and a neckline without all the extra bulk and heat? And that was my aha moment. I had no idea how to run a company. I had no idea where to start. My background is a PE teacher, for Pete's sakes. I did like tons of math too. It's all education. But what I realized is all of the other things, right? So my PE background, my just going to school, basketball, music, my performing, all of these things are actually really important, valuable pieces to my layers and my story that even though I didn't have a business degree, I absolutely had the abilities and the grit and the work ethic to be able to figure it all out. And that was really that moment that sparked Halftee. And I knew it was crazy. Um, Tyler also thought it was a little bit crazy, but I also knew that it was something that the Lord really wanted me to do. And I sometimes battle back and forth. Was it something that the Lord really wanted me to do, or was it something that kind of excited me? And I knew that I would love maybe kind of delving into this whole business thing. And the Lord was like, yeah, it's actually gonna be really good for you. You should try it out and I'll support you in that. But I think it was a little bit of both. It was that little nudge. The Lord said, hey, this could really be a wonderful thing for not just you, but millions and millions of women, to help them dress more modestly and more confidently and empower them to do and be the type of women that they feel like they are on that inside, on the outside as well. So have you ever had an idea in an ordinary moment that turned into something bigger? Now be careful with this because even the smallest things can have massive impact, right? So we got to be careful with what we think ordinary moments turning into something big. But think about that. I would love to know if what your moments were where you really shifted, and something that's so tiny, a tiny little nudge turned into something bigger. And that for me, obviously, was absolutely hefty. I think other moments would be, of course, choosing to marry Tyler. I think starting a family. I think where you go to college. Maybe it's this random, hey, I need to go on a trip this weekend. I met my first business partner because I had a nudge that I needed to go to the kiosk. We had kiosks back in the day at the University Mall. And I was at the house and I was like, the Spirit said, go to the mall. And I was like, I don't need to go to the mall. It was Mern, who was my best employee. Sometimes we employed little like 18, 16-year-olds, and you were very skeptical of what they were actually getting done, right? Because there was no supervision. It was just them. And they had to have their phones. So it was Mern, though. And I was like, Mern does not need me to check on her. So I followed it and I listened. This is another one of those turning points, that little nudge that turned into something big. But ended up going to the kiosk, and Mern looks at me, he's like, why are you here? I said, I have no idea why I'm here. I'm just here. I'm just trying to listen. And about 5 minutes later, Noelle showed up to the cart, and we ended up being business partners for, I can't even remember, 8 or 9 years, since she's moved on to other adventures. But that was a huge, impactful moment for Halftee. I needed another set of hands to help me grow it and bring in new assets and new, just really new ideas. And so that was another turning point of Halftee that I am so grateful that I listened, because had I not have been there, I would have never in a million years probably ran into her any other place. So super grateful for that moment as well. I want to talk about my necklace. You'll see me wearing this necklace a lot. It's from the Risen shop. I love it. It is the Resurrected Savior. It's one of my favorite pieces that I literally probably wear every single day. I have it in silver as well. If you want to save 15% off, just use my code Amanda. That's it, Amanda, and you'll get 15% off. I promise you will love it and wear it every day. So starting Halftee it wasn't glamorous, you guys. It began in our basement. Okay. And I need you to visualize, maybe close your eyes. My first desk was a children's desk. It was like, maybe you guys had one. It was light wood. It had red legs. It sat up about knee length. And then I had the matching chair. So at least I had a matching office desk. That's something to celebrate. But a matching chair with the same wood with red legs. And that was like Tyler's desk was set up because it was it wasn't it was an L-shaped desk with a big old cabinet in the back. And I put my desk in front of the L with my little chair. And I had two plastic shelving units that stored all of the inventory. When I say all the inventory, I think it was probably, I can't remember, honestly, I'd have to do the math, but we launched with a basic cap sleeve Halftee and a long sleeve Halftee. That's what we launched with in 4 colors: white, black, brown, and cream. Those were our 4 colors that we launched with in both styles. But I've sat at that tiny little baby desk with that tiny little baby chair, and I worked, and I did a lot of work. And I still think back of the way we used to ship. Guys, that was back in the day. There was no ship station, there was no Zebra printers, there was no warehouse. Stamps.com was literally not even existent. And I would hand fill out manila folders. Okay. What the very first women expo that I went to is called What Women Want, was down in St. George. My sister was supposed to go with me. She ended up going into preterm labor, had the baby 6 weeks early. And I went down to St. George, just me and my little brother. I think my little brother had to have been maybe 17-ish, and he was coming down with me to sell Halftees, to talk about women's chest sizes and how they're going to fit and blah, blah, blah. It was actually could have been so catastrophically terrible. Ended up being fantastic. I went down with a couple samples of both styles with a yellow ledger, like the legal ledger. That is where I pre-sold Halftees. I wrote down their names, their address, their size, and what their order was. I think back then this is going to be shocking and terrible all at the same time, because I know we now sell this for one Halftee for one, but I did a pre-order sell, 2 for $22. That's what I first launched out. That's probably a new number that Princess doesn't even know. But we started with a 2 for 22 was our What Women Want Expo sell, and we pre-sold like hundreds of Halftees with my little brother. It's so funny. Anyways, so I came home back to my tiny little desk with a tiny little chair, and I started shipping out all these orders. And I did it in manila folders. So think of the manila folders with like the flap and the little metal claspy thing. That's how I did it. Hand wrote the addresses, hand wrote the return address, put the Halftees in, then I put them in a box, and my dad would come over. This is another sweet little layer. My dad would come over every morning, pick those up at 7 in the morning, take them to the post office, stand in line, and ship those manila folders with Halftees in them out for the day. And I'll never forget the day that he came home, and he was so excited. My dad's kind of chill, and he was so excited. He's like, Amanda, have you heard of stamps.com? And I was like, no, Dad, what are you talking about? He's like, the mail guy told me about stamps.com. We can actually print our stamps at home. We can tape them onto the packages, and then all I have to do is just drop them off. I don't have to stand in line anymore. And I was like, holy crap. So I started doing research, and we ended up, that was our first stamps.com. But at the time, I don't know what I'm assuming now that I know myself, there was probably a better way. But at the time, I would print off the stamps onto computer paper, and then I would cut them out. Princess in the corner dying. And then I cut them out, and then I would take packaging tape and I would tape them onto the manila folder. And it was the birth of our upgrade in our shipping department. I mean, it was like life changing. So, that was early day. I look at it so fondly. It was really it was in the trenches, right? It's like the ultimate American dream in the basement on a tiny desk with shelving and cutting out, well, first handwriting everything, but then cutting out stamps.com stamps to get everything shipped out. I mean, just such an incredible startup story that I think about often. But Tyler's presence during those basement years, I want to go back to Tyler a little bit, because we're talking about just those early times. It just mattered. My dad's presence in those early times, my mom's support, all of those little things, and even my friends' support. This is an awesome little layer too that I literally just thought about, but Katrina, was one of it still is, she's just not with me, but one of my very dearest friends, she's a graphic designer. She since has passed away. She passed away about 12 years ago in childbirth, which it was such a traumatic time. I'd never quite experienced anything like it. But I can still remember, she was so excited for me. And she was one of those friends that you tell her an idea and she's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so amazing. This is so smart. Just like the ultimate hype friend, right? And I can still remember sitting on her bed. And she would design with her pinky up. I still can think about it. She'd design with her pinky up like this. And, she was like a little ninja, and she was actually Filipino. Princess is Filipino. That's actually so cool. Anyways, I digress, but that was kind of a cool little connection. So she would do a little designing thing, and cut and paste everything in. And her and I sat on her bed and we designed our very first logo. And it's significantly different than if we have a picture of it, maybe we can post it and show it to everybody. Significantly different. But it was those layers, it was those people that showed up, including Tyler, that just believed in me, right? And that just after exhausting hours, because you're doing all these things when you're starting up and you've got 5 little kids, and Tyler had a job, my dad had a job, Katrina, they owned their own company, their own karate studios. Everyone was pitching in. It was oftentimes in the middle, the late hours after we'd all worked all day that we were coming together. Dad showing up at 7 in the morning to help come get those packages, that we were all just pulling together to support me and this dream and this premonition that I had of these silly little crop tops that were going to change women's lives, which honestly, now here we are. They really have. So Ashley, my first babysitter, just trading places constantly. And those early hires were so practical, but they were so important to just the story of Halftee, and I'm so grateful for him. So who was the first person that helped you support your dreams? And I want to know, how did it shape you? Who were those people? It's just not one, it's probably a couple, but I think it's so important as we tell our story and as we think about our story that we try to remember those moments and we remember those people that God sent. I believe God sent these people to me. For very specific reasons, obviously my dad and Tyler, but these friends, my friends, Kate was a huge proponent of support. She actually graduated with a business major and she had started a couple businesses, but she was a huge support in the kiosk aspect. I can tell that story a little bit later, but yeah, I want to know, who were those people that supported and gave you that energy and that excitement to go, and that desire. You already had the desire, but really that support to go and follow those dreams. I think they're so important to remember. I just want to take a second and talk about my lashes right there. I love these DIY lashes. Do them at home. I just think they're so perfect for busy moms. Guys, I'm in photo shoots and podcasts now, all the things, and these lashes really help me get ready so much faster and just really elevate my look. If you want to save a little money, my code is Amanda B. I seriously think you should check them out. I literally love them a ton. All right, collaboration, Eve moments, and today's mission. So over time, I realized success wasn't just about hustling harder. It's not. Noelle would say this all the time: work smarter, not harder. It was about collaborating, women supporting women, not competing for, but creating abundance together. That is why I started building B2B collaborations through Halftee and why I launched this podcast. Because every layer, my childhood, sports, faith, motherhood, entrepreneurship, friendship, has led to this mission: helping women see the power they hold when they support each other with their businesses and obviously, of course, with their dollars. I call some of the biggest turning points in my life Eve moments, and I think we all have Eve moments. So I'm going to get a little biblical here, but in the Garden of Eden, Eve had to study, she had to ponder, and ultimately make a pivotal decision, one that changed everything for mankind. I believe she chose through intuition, through study, through prayer, and she recognized that the decision she made in the Garden of Eden was actually so much bigger and more powerful than herself. And in that moment, when she chose to partake of the fruit and to kind of go against the comforts of the garden, somewhat go against what Adam was telling her, what Heavenly Father was telling her, she followed her intuition and she made an Eve choice. She made a decision, which is why we are all here today, because Eve chose to partake of the fruit. And I think we all have those moments. I believe each of us has multiple Eve moments in our lives where we face. I believe each of us has multiple Eve moments where we face a choice that could change everything. And almost always those decisions are about stepping more fully into who we are meant to be and considering how our choice can impact and help others. Eve moments are moments that will impact and ripple for long periods of time. Lots of people are affected, and for the better. in an Eve moment. Looking back, I can see so many Eve moments in my own journey. From deciding to pursue basketball, to launching Halftees, to saying yes to collaborations, each one carried me into the next layer of my story. So what is one layer in your life, past or present, that you can now see was preparing you for something bigger? And this is kind of back on something we've kind of already talked about. And I've already kind of talked about this too. Eve moments for me was choosing to marry Tyler. Eve moment for me was choosing to start a family, Halftee, these collaborations. These are all have been pivotal aha moments that have made me. And remember, an Eve moment also is going to be those things that they're probably going to be things you swore you would never do. Starting Halftee was a hard decision for me because I was very, very happy with being a stay-at-home mom. I love, love, love being a mom. I wasn't looking for like something more, something to fulfill me more. I was super duper happy being a stay-at-home mom, being home with my babies, doing housework, cooking, cleaning, doing the yard work. All those things really fulfilled me. So I was very nervous, and it made me very uncomfortable when I felt like I was now going to step into kind of the working mom world. And my biggest fear was that I didn't want people to think that I wasn't satisfied and super happy with what I was doing when it came to family, when it came to taking care of my family. Because I really, truly believe that women and moms in the home is so, so important. And so taking on a job, starting a business, that was very scary for me. And I did not want to be a bad example. And I didn't want people to think that, and I didn't want my own daughters to think that in order for me to feel fulfilled and in order for them to be fulfilled, they need to go and work and start companies and build businesses, and do all those things, plus also carry that huge weight of what it looked like to be a mother. So I still battle with that. I still wrestle with that. But I know that in starting Halftee, one, I have always had my husband's support, but I've also, more importantly, had my Heavenly Father's support. And I feel like Eve moments is when you and God look straight in the face together and say, we can do this. And this is a God moment, and we can do this. And it is going to have so many wonderful rippling effects. Yes, does bad come with Eve moments? 110% yes. But ultimately, it is a wonderful opportunity to take what you already have been given and just expand it, blow it up, and just have a fantastic rippling positive effect on more than just your tiny little world. So, what that would be a layer, and that would be kind of an Eve moment for me, was Halftee. So in closing, as I look back on my own layers, from a little girl on stage in Wyoming to the long hours on a basketball court to sitting at a child's desk in my basement packing manila envelopes, I see how each one prepared me for the next. Those experiences, those people, those Eve moments are what shaped Halftee, and now is this podcast. Her layered life isn't just about statistics or business. It's about real lives, real stories, and the choices that ripple out to impact families and communities. Every layer matters. The roots that ground us, the grit that grows us, and the people who supported us, and the collaborations that lift us higher. My hope is that you listen, you see your own layers differently, with more meaning, more purpose, and more courage to step into your next Eve moment. Until next time, let your choices shape the world you want to see, and love every single layer of your life. If this episode encouraged you, I would love to hear. Please share a layer or a story that has shaped who you are today. Share an Eve moment. I would love to hear it. Please tag It's Amanda Bean or tag Her Layered Life. Or if you're more of an email style type of person, email me at amanda@halftee.com. I would love to hear all the details. Thanks for joining us. Join us next week. Can't wait to see you. Mwah.